concept that we kind of came up with when Andrew Bell rebrewed a legacy recipe on the palate, and it was iniquitous. And iniquitous is a bigger, it is a slightly different recipe, but it's a bigger version that could be compared to our Mischief flagship beer. And iniquitous uses a little bit different grist, our same house yeast that we use for most of our Belgian strains. And when he brewed that, several of us really just thought, wow, hey, this is the brewery. This is what we do. Big Belgian beers, and there was a little bit of a harkening back into that spirit of pushing the boundaries of what beer is, and also the Belgian inspiration. So that was a lot of fun. And then when we were building out this year's release schedule, we wanted to include iniquitous in that, but there's something to be said for making it a little bit more complex than it needed to be, which is what we specialize in here at the brewery. And so we did that, and we thought that it would be fun to brew the same beer, essentially being inspired by iniquitous, but do a couple different things with it. We thought that it deserved a dry hop to call something from Mischief, if you will, and the original iniquitous, but we also wanted to include oak in some way. So April Showers was pitched directly from the brew house with our house yeast and fermented in oak puncheons, new oak puncheons. Bruery does most of their fermentation in oak, most of their primary fermentation in oak, but that's not done too often, if not ever, on the clean side, if you will, on the brewery side. And so this was a really fun concept. It's not a temperature controlled fermentation when you're fermenting in oak casks of any size, and if there's ever an environment where the house Belgian yeast that we have is really going to express itself in an uncontrolled manner, it was in this. So as a result, from this beer, you get all the Belgian esters and all of the funkiness that our house Belgian yeast can provide. Flavors that are actually restricted in fermentation in a beer like Mischief. You really do get those phenols and bubble gum and a little bit of just a little bit of horse blanket there, and just the sense of it bordering on a wild fermentation on the clean side of our brewing process. And then the dry hop, Hallertau Blanc just adds a little bit of aromatics to blend with everything going on in the yeast. Not a lot of oak character, but just a little bit in the background. These are new oak casks, so a little bit different oak program than what you would expect out of some of our barrel-aged beers, where we're using spirit barrels and things of that nature, or even on the Teru and sour side, where beer sees anywhere between 6 months and 3 years in contact with new oak. This was fermentation and aging only, and it sat on that yeast for all that time. So the oak character is subtle, but we're almost thinking it in terms of using the oak a little bit differently here, not for flavor, but as a traditional fermentation vessel. And as I mentioned earlier, what comes along with that is the lack of temperature control that would normally be associated with a modern brewing fermentation vessel. And so really what the oak is doing in an indirect way is supporting the yeast structure of the beer itself. This is really fantastic. It drinks like Mischief, but don't be fooled. It's a wee bit stronger, and really a fun project.